All right, before the manger, this is the signature masterpiece title track of this
Man,
project, and it's a moment. It's a soul stirring, shiver producing kind of like story through the ages. As we've talked with a lot of these songs, we're dipping into history as we pull out these great carols, but this is a story that takes us back like right to the beginning of time and sort of paints the story of the gospel from beginning to end. I love that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
This would be, I don't want to jump the shark. You can edit this out
yeah,
and we can start over if you
okay.
want, but this would be a good time for you to talk about the title and its dual meaning, right?
Yes. No, I definitely do want to talk about that. So, yeah, this idea of before the manger, it's almost like a dual meaning of the history of time that came from
hmm
before the manger and all of the. I mean, I don't want to humanize things too much, but I'm just thinking like the planning, all the preparation, all of the looking forward to the moment that God the Father had when this moment was going to happen, that his son was going to enter the earth. That story that led up. And then there is a sense of before, like we even have that song, that hymn, Before the Throne of
hmm
God. That is a hymn. And so this is like before the manger, which sort of hints at the manger as the throne. That's the song that this piece leads
Yeah,
into. And so it's standing before. And if you look at the beautiful image that's the cover art for this, it kind of depicts there's the one shepherd who's just like kneeling down as though he's kneeling before the manger, but they're also kind of like anticipating, looking.
yeah,
So yeah, love that,
yeah.
Travis. I'm so glad you
Mhm.
thought of that, Travis. That's amazing. I Travis and I had a conversation, and I was telling him about this. He's like, "Go! I never even realized
I
that."
know. It's
So
true.
there you go. Just beautiful. Mason, I think you should tell us a little about your heart for these moments. You are there really an innovator in this space, and you've done a number of these. And I think every time it feels like you're getting better and better and more expressive, a little more creative in reaching for some fresh space as we bring into our worship services. So tell us your heart for these moments.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing these, I think, since 2018. And,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to make them sound kind of cookie cutter, but, it's kind of, 30,000 foot view, they're kind of the same formula. Like, we take a song, dissect it, give it a whole new treatment as far as the arrangement, overlay it with narration. And, you're telling the Easter story or the Christmas story in 6 or 7 minutes. And
Yeah.
so going into this project, we knew Manger Throne was kind of the focus of this. Um, but when I said I started working, how I was going to craft that arrangement, and then how I was going to create space for the narration and what that story was going to tell, things just wound up being the song, the arrangement wound up being very long, and so
Mm-hmm.
it kind of just broke off into okay, well, what if this time, what if this becomes its own piece, and what if it is
Mm-hmm.
a prelude to the song, essentially, Throne, and it kind of just becomes its own thing. And so um, when I did that, and I had these themes in my head that kind of conflicted with Manger Throne, which kind of helped birth this before the Manger, um, I kind of just started laying things out, and soundtracks that I was listening to at the time kind of inspired me and how I wanted to tell the story musically. And yeah, I mean, it kind of just it's really started unfolding. And I'm Ryan sending it to you and was like, I don't know, this is very different. It's not really what we've done really. And so and I, immediately it was like, this is amazing. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is so much fun, and just kind of a new way to do this moment. And it's great because this will literally segue into Manger Throne, same key. there's like a nice overlay into both, so you can overlap them in the service and dovetail each other, or it
Or
stands on
not.
its own. Exactly, it stands on
Yeah.
its own. It can be its own thing. You can stop it and then start whatever song you want to after that. So,
Yeah.
kind of just talking about this dual purpose role for these songs. I think this, also kind of fits that category.
Yeah. Yeah, Travis, you've done these moments before in your worship. Did you have any thoughts as to like how have they worked, or how have you been able to bring in these moments in your worship services?
So I'm always looking for creative ways to open services.
Mm-hmm.
I've used these moments a lot as openers.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So last year, whether it's a service like we did, I've opened up our Easter services with our Easter moments. I've closed our
Yeah.
Easter service with our moments. Last year, we do a big Christmas program here, like 5 nights
Mm-hmm.
and choir and orchestra and everything. And last year we opened with our moment. I'm just looking for a creative way to always looking to open up the storyline of a whole
Yeah.
service or a
Yeah.
concert. And
Yep.
this feels like a good way for us. And for us musically, like for our musical footprint at my church, this works perfectly. But I think it's the kind of thing where you need a Selah moment and a worship moment hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So where we don't just sing, 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 but we
Hmm.
think and we ponder and we learn, and then we respond by singing, respond by singing, and
Yeah.
then we think and we ponder and learn, and we respond by singing, respond by singing, and
Yeah.
that's what these moments do for me. Rather than just expecting our people just to go beginning to end, sing, sing, sing. That's great, but we need those Selah moments where you need to stop and ponder and reflect and learn,
Mm-hmm.
and these do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is options as well. If someone wants to bring this moment into their service, they could play the music and have a narrator and do all of that, all the way to you could just get the track and just play the
Hmm.
track, and just let it sort of simmer. It's almost like the last prelude audio track that you play before you just segue into the Manger throne or another
Right.
song. And so lots of options
Yeah.
like that. I really like how you're always
Mhm.
bringing that out, Travis, that again and again and again, we say you can design this into the specific nature of your own church, small or
Yes.
big. There's options for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So good stuff. Well, just looking at, we've got the song live here. Obviously, you're going to see when you look at the chord chart, it's just the chords, but we do definitely have attached to the piano vocal and the choir sheet. Like there is definitely links to just the narration. There's actually even an ability if you wanted to make a tweak to the narration yourself. If you're going to read it yourself, you can do that. I mean, we are just trying to provide these resources for you. There's a lot that's
Yes.
being said in the narration. There's a lot of theology that sort of comes out, and we want to make sure that you're saying something that is really true to your church. Well, let's listen to this piece and let's see if you can get through the next 3 minutes without feeling the shivers stirring up in your soul, because it's certainly going to happen with me. Here we go.
A word spoke into the dark, a whisper deeper than the deep and vaster than the void. It filled the great emptiness. Yahweh had spoken, and his breath brought with it light and life. The world awoke, and history began. His creation knew his love and his blessing. The breath of the word filled their lungs, and yet that first pair turned away and disobeyed. They turned from life, from love, from God. Sorrow and sin had entered the world, yet in that darkness, God did not abandon his children. He spoke to them. He led them. Abraham heard his words, as did his descendants. Jacob wrestled with him. David sang to him, and Solomon built him his temple. The same word that was at the beginning spoke to them through their priests, prophets, and kings. A plan foretold in the prophecies of old, of one who would take away the sins of the world and provide a way back to the Father's heart, bringing peace and the promise of eternal life. And the word revealed to them a singular way of reconciliation through the greatest sacrifice of love. But what lamb of sacrifice might ever cover their stain of rebellion? Then God spoke to them of one who would come, one who would be pierced so they might live, wounded that they may be healed, and sacrificed that they might be wholly redeemed. And so they waited, knowing their own efforts and sacrifice could never fully cleanse them of their sin. Still they watched and hoped, longing for the day of his coming, longing for the promise of the one who would save them. Until a star shone clear in the night sky, heralding the dawn of God's promised salvation. The time had finally come for the world to witness the birth of the perfect Lamb who would wash his people clean. Redemption now stood at their very door, the promised one about to be revealed, the conquering King come to set his people free. But there were no trumpets, no earthly fanfare to welcome him. In the silence of the most sacred night, before the manger, before the cross, before the empty tomb, the depths of God's love was revealed, and heaven held its breath, listening, waiting for their King to shine in the dark.
You know, one thing
Good job, Mason.
One thing I love about that, Mason, is you wrote that piece before the narration. So it's almost like you felt the story and you told the story without words. And then we had to find out how to put words to that story that was being told, because it was all there. I mean, you could just feel the flow, but when it's all comes together, it's just such a merging of I loved that swell of the strings and the rise, and then just like that quiet contrast at the end, like just in the dark.
Yeah.
It was just, and also that melodic hook too, that dung 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 dung, that carries through into Manger Throne. That is the tying piece that you would have to put these tracks, literally butt them like end to end, and they will flow together. So so good. So just looking at the tracks again, or the products that we have, all of the different things: lead sheet, piano, choir, orchestra. If you want to use your choir in this, use an orchestra, you certainly could. I mean, God bless you if you could pull your orchestra off with this. That would be amazing. I would love to see it. Send us a video of that experience. So PraiseCharts.com/83713. You can just see all the products here available to download and grab. It doesn't quite look like all the rest of the music because it's a very special, unique piece. And I think this is the piece where people will go away from your service going, something special happened this morning, like something a little unexpected that I wasn't expecting that. It wasn't just 4 songs and an offertory and a sermon. It was like I got surprised. And so
well, I mean that's that's what you want at Christmas or at Easter. I mean, you're telling these very dramatic stories, and I think if they're not carried with the same weight and told with the same weight that they actually have, then what's the point? And so I think that's to what you're talking about a second ago. I mean, it is interesting crafting something without a narration, but at the same time, like I have the story in my head, and so
Yeah.
I am crafting that, and if I don't feel anything from it, then I know that people listening aren't going to feel anything from it, and so I think that's the hope, that's the point, that's what we want to get across is that this is it's you're telling a very weighty story, and you want to tell it the best way you can.
Very good. Very good. All right. Well, you can click in the link below to go to the next video, which is going to be about the song that this segues into, Manger Throne. So stay with us for that. That's such an incredible arrangement. Here we go.